Okay. What are some specific examples of how you find yourself following Ephesians 5:25, which says, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her"?
Well, your grandma and I have been married for almost 49 years, and you know, during that time, I've always loved her. There's sometimes we don't like each other very much, but as I've grown as a man and grown as a Christian, I've learned that, and just feel it in my heart, that putting herself before myself is the most important thing I can do. Uh, when I was younger, she likes to talk about when I was playing softball, bowling, fishing, and working, and I couldn't figure out why she wasn't happy sitting at home with your mom and Christy. But as I've grown as a man, I just know that that's what I need to do, is to look for her first, and just as Christ looked to us, I need to look to her and put herself first, and sometimes that means sacrificing for myself.
Yeah. Give a specific example of a time that you have refrained from sinning in anger.
Every day. Um, that one's a good one, Garrett. I think specifically back when I was working for the oil company, there were times I worked for a guy that didn't believe in God, didn't believe in a higher power, and he would make me so mad, just with the ruthless way that he treated me and treated others. And it was only through God's grace I was able to hold my tongue and not just blast out and be just like him. Now, when I went back to my office, sometimes I was walking around sputtering to myself, but God gave me the grace to be able to just refrain from giving him what I thought he needed.
Yeah. And in certain times where you did fall victim to sinning in anger, how did you handle the consequences, and in what ways did you fix your mistakes?
Well, I don't know if you can ever repair the damage, but by going to your grandma, going to your mom, and apologizing sincerely for the hurt that I had done, learning from that not to do it again. And I know that asking for forgiveness and seeking forgiveness is, I can't get anybody else to accept that forgiveness, but and I know that I left behind some wounds from doing that, but that's the only way I know, is to seek forgiveness.
And through these challenges and failures, and even the success in refraining from anger, how did you grow? Did you feel that you grew as a man in some areas?
Oh, absolutely. I think when you humble yourself, when you really come to grips with the fact that you've messed up and you're not more important than other people, I think you grow. And it's through seeking forgiveness and receiving forgiveness that you really, I have come to understand much more how God forgives me. Goodness knows, I need all the forgiveness I can get for the stuff that I've done.
Give a specific example of how you get rid of bitterness, rage, anger, brawling, and slander in your day-to-day life.
The simplest word is to turn it over to Jesus. When your Aunt Christy and Becca and Jeff were killed, I was very bitter and angry. And even when I thought I had gotten over it, I really hadn't. And it was really more than 2 years before I was able to, before we made that trip to Colorado together, uh, I went to a men's retreat, and this guy was talking about uh, the anger and bitterness he had in his job because a guy had uh, stiffed him on a business deal and owed him thousands of dollars. And you know, Brett was or is a construction guy, and he just talked about how uh, letting that anger eat him up was destroying him as a man and as a father and as a friend. And when he talked about that, your dad and I were at that retreat, man, it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I think I cried almost constantly for 2 days with the relief that I got at that moment of turning it loose. Because you know, the guy that killed Christian, Jeff, and Becca, his deal was between him and the state of Texas in that trial. It wasn't about me and your grandma and you and your mom and the whole family. It was about letting that go. And once I let that go, I just felt so much better, so much more relief. Yeah, I'm still upset that and sad that they had to die because he was reckless and stupid, and it still irritates me that he never took responsibility for that. But at the same time, once I let it go and gave it all to Christ, then I was a much healthier and happier person.
When you raised my mom and my aunt, how did you make sure that they were brought up in training and the way of the Lord?
Well, when they were little, we didn't, because your grandma and I, we didn't go to church that much, and we let Grandma Vern take them a lot. And but it was when your mom was probably 6 or 7, maybe 8, that actually she was 6 when my dad, your great grandpa McDonald, died. I started taking an account of my life, and I saw how he lived his wife, and I realized I had a lot of catching up to do to have a life like he had, and the way he had raised me and Terry and Susan. And Monty and I started going back to church, and slowly, you know, we were taking them with us, but both of us came to a deeper walk with Christ. Both of us had been saved as young kids, and it's kind of, you may hear that term, where we were all about the salvation, but letting Jesus be the Lord of our life was something we didn't really want to deal with. But when we fully committed ourselves to Christ and started teaching your mom and Aunt Christy and making sure they were getting the right teaching, we changed churches and went to a different brand or a different denomination, because we realized that where we were, they were just teaching your mom and Aunt Christy about the church and, you know, the rules and the regulations that church wanted to do, but not about how to live for Christ. And I think your mom and Aunt Christy really got it, and they got it at a younger age than your grandma and I.
Give an example of a time you have failed to live according to Ephesians 6, which says, "Obey your earthly masters with respect and fear, and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ."
I don't know if I can think of a time, Garrett. The way I was raised with my mom and dad is you always respected authority, whether it was the police or teachers or your bosses. And I really can't recall a time where I rebelled. Now, I may have disliked it, but I did what I was told to do. I always did everything to the best of my ability. And So I really can't think of a time that there was that.
Name a time that you have doubted God. How did you overcome this doubt?
Never. Even from ages of about 18 to 28, when I didn't pay a lot of attention to God, I always knew He was there. I knew that He was sovereign. I knew that He was in control. And I really have never had a time when I ever doubted God or His strength or His righteousness.